Oh, and welcome everybody to the REVN community stream for update 15.14 of the beta. I'm Silas, the creative director here at Ambitious Games.
And I am Alistair, the balance team lead here at Ambitious Games.
All right. So today we are coming to you with a community stream to talk about some of the changes that we've been making to the game this week. Some of these changes are already live in the game, and some of these will be rolling out on Monday when patch 15.14 hits the servers. So first up, some new visual content. There's some environment art as well that's not listed here, but we are
We
getting,
got some new buildings coming into the pipeline.
yep, very excited to see those. We also have some new explosion VFX, and that's on Frag Grenade and the Lance rocket rifle. And we also have some new sound effects from Tony for the burst rifle. So Tony's joining the team as our audio director, composer, and sound designer. He has started working on reworking all of the gunshots in the game. We started with the burst rifle this week, so when you get into the game, you'll see a slightly updated burst rifle sound effect. And I think there's a few more tweaks that are going to be rolling out. Either they'll be out in Monday or they'll be in the next patch after that.
Right. Overall, should be a lot of stuff increasing the visual fidelity. The SFX I know are something that were pretty highly requested on the burst rifle.
Very cool. Um, Next up, we have stat
Uh,
changes.
yeah. So there's kind of like two balance pieces here. Um, the first major thing happening in this patch, though, is going to be the changes to wave minions. Um, there's a lot of things happening here, but overall, you're probably not going to notice that much of a difference. Ideally, what you're going to see is that wave minions are going to do significantly less damage throughout the game, and you should have a little bit more time as a player to respond if you are noticing that you are getting that hit feedback from minion wave that you may be aggroed while you were behind the enemy lines or whatever. Um, so they're getting their scaling per wave for their damage decreased to 1.2%. Previously, this was 2.4%. Um, so this is a pretty much direct cut in half to the amount of damage the minions are going to get throughout the game. In order to compensate for that, they're getting a increase to their structure damage multiplier. So on the inverse of things, we're not going to see as much of a damage change, if any, really, when it comes to minions pushing structures. Um, Otherwise, last change was something that Silas had kind of pushed for, and I think he could probably speak to a little bit more of why we're increasing the amount of Iker per wave.
Yeah, so Iker per wave is looking at addressing snowballing of the economy in Revan. Um, so in a lot of our recent playtests, it has been very common for one team to get an early Iker lead, be that by invading the enemy jungle, winning a lane, getting an early kill streak, um, claiming Hunter very early in the match. Any of those factors can give a team, say, a 5,000 Iker lead at about 5 minutes into the game. That's when Hunter spawns, for example. Once a team has gotten that lead, it is very easy to maintain and grow the gap between your team's resources so that by the end of the game, you have 15 or even 20,000 more Iker than the enemy team. And that is an extreme amount that is very difficult to come back against. So, to address this, um, I want to look at the amount of resources that are available in the early game versus the amount of resources that are available to players of every team in the mid to late games. And so, one way that we're addressing that is by having some Iker scaling on minion waves. So, when you kill a minion in the beginning of the game, it'll give you, for example, 100 Iker. the next time that wave spawns, it'll give you 101 Ichor per minion that you kill. And by the end of the game, you're getting maybe 200 Ichor per minion that you kill. Um, those numbers are just for uh, examples, but it's pretty close to what you'll see is that towards the end of the game, the amount of resources that you're getting from waves of minions has increased quite a bit. And you'll probably feel this if you are on the defending side a little bit more because the enemy team's minions are going to be pushing into you, pushing into your tower, so they're going to be a little bit easier to farm. You don't have to put yourself out there in as much danger to claim those resources. Meanwhile, the jungle camps and the minions protecting them stay the same. So if a team is dominating the map, controlling all of the terminals, in the early game or the late game, they're still going to get the same amount of resources from those camps. But the people farming in lanes are going to get more resources as the match progresses, which means that perhaps if your team is falling behind on resources, a good strategy might be to start split pushing, have one player that you want to sort of farm up and get strong, go into a side lane that's uncontested, and spend some extra time there grabbing those more valuable minions that are now worth more because you're in the mid to late game, while the rest of your team, fights over objectives or whatever else needs to be done.
Yeah, so overall should be a change that should kind of reduce the gap between players as the game goes on, um, and kind of give a team that's behind an opportunity to come back through giving them more avenues to gain resources.
Yeah.
Definitely really looking forward to that change. I think it's gonna be really good.
Okay, now for some balance stuff. Alistair, break it down for us.
All right, so the big overarching thing that all of this kind of rolls into is the energy regen rework that we're doing in this patch. So this is going to be, I believe, out in, or this is already out. Most of this we play tested on this already. So from the top, we've got the energy regen gear spec. Previously, it was giving you one energy regen per second every 5 power levels. Um, Now it's going to give you half of that. So it's still going to be a really good source of energy regen. And the big thing here is that we're changing energy regen to be able to function in such a way that we can now give players decimal values for their energy regen. This is really important because a stat like this can go a really long way if you get a lot of it. Um, we've been doing a lot to increase the amount of energy in the game because we do think that using your abilities is a core part of what makes REVN really enjoyable, and we don't want to gate people from that. But we do recognize that there should also be an element to the game that is managing your energy and having energy costs of abilities be an important thing that you're building around. Um, so overall, this is actually going to be really good for balancing the game. I think energy regen feels really good right now. As even despite the fact that overall most items were nerfed, um, aside from biofuel converter, which is going from a flat 1 to 1.5 energy regen per second. Um, but most things got their energy regen reduced.
Yeah. Like you said at the beginning of the slide, we recently made some changes to energy regen so that you can have fractional energy regen on items or gear specs. This was something that previously we just didn't have the code set up to do. Um, Now it is possible. So if you're gaining half an energy point extra per second, you'll gain essentially it'll be sort of hidden from you. So your amount of energy that you can actually spend is always a nice round number. But you'll be accruing all of that fractional energy in the background, and then it'll show up in your bar once you've hit a full point of energy. So just before anybody goes in and wonders if there's an ability where you can spend like 3.27 energy to cast something, um, Energy costs will still always be nice round numbers. However, you can gain it now in fractional amounts, which
Yeah,
allows us to more properly fine tune the balance of certain items.
right. And the main way to look at this is that, like previously, whereas you would, I think the energy regen gear spec is the best example. You would get one flat. Now you will get half in energy. So every 2 seconds, you'll get one energy back. Um, and overall, I think this is going to be a really positive change for us to make. Uh, some of the items that are going to be affected by this include energy recycler, um, which is getting its energy regen increased, energy scavenger, which is getting its energy regen removed actually, but getting max energy to compensate. This is because it's a starting item, and with all these energy regen changes, we just found that energy scavenger was maybe doing a little bit too many things. We never want one item to wear too many hats.
Right. Right.
Um, Otherwise, energized plating and medic implant both had their energy regen change to scale. Um, and energy generator had its energy regen pretty strongly reduced, but it is still the most premium energy regen source in the game. It's still going to be what you're going to go for in those heat ray, freeze ray, flamethrower builds. Um, yeah, really looking forward to hearing more feedback around this. I know we already play tested on it, so any thoughts we're totally open to hearing in our channels. Um, Otherwise, last balance change for the patch. Kind of a niche one, gun that's been needing some love, especially since more secondary weapons have been introduced into the game. This was a suggestion by Arb. Um, and yeah, the Rook Revolver is getting 10 more meters of range, and it's got its headshot bonus damage increased by 10 to 20 in total now. So uh, pretty good change for the Rook. Should help it feel more like a hand cannon.
Yeah. All right. So now we've got a few bugs that we fixed this week, or coming out next week. We're going to have this bug fix for the smash ability. Um, there were some issues where you could sort of readjust where you were aiming the ability while it was casting, which made it way stronger than we intended it to be, made it a lot more difficult to dodge. The intent was that you would be sort of locked into the animation once you cast it, so you really had to commit to it as a tank. You know, you had to make sure you lined up your skill shot. That obviously wasn't happening. The ability was absolutely dominating for the last couple of weeks. We've got that bug fixed in this next patch. We've also got some bug fixes for some of the various tutorial hint pop ups where your camera would sort of freeze up or you wouldn't be able to control the game. We are aware there are still a few more issues with those pop ups, and we're working on those to get them fixed as fast as possible. We are also aware that fixing this bug actually introduced a new bug where you could hit the escape key in like the lobbies or the main menus and things like that, and further sort of break your UI. Um, so just be careful not to do that. In the meantime, we are going to get that fixed soon. I don't believe that fix is in this patch, but it might be in the next one. And finally, my favorite bug of the week, two super minions. Double super minions was a super great patch. We should have this like every few weeks. We should just like randomly enable this.
I
Uh,
think so.
yeah, I think this is great for the
Good
balance of the
thought.
game. Um, yeah, that was a terrifying bug. They were super strong. You were just like basically screwed if the enemy team claimed the Angel Orb. Getting two super minions per lane was really strong. So good thing we got that fixed. And I believe that wraps up this patch. So update 15.14 will be rolling out on Monday. Um, In the meantime, Austin is also working on some of the party based matchmaking and friends list bugs. So we are aware that joining parties is pretty buggy right now. This is actually one of the things that we were hoping to test with the big stress test that we've been doing this week. So thank you to everybody from the Playable Vib community for playing Revan with us and continuing to play Revan with us for the rest of the week. You guys have been helping us really get an idea of where we need to continue improving the game, both with the servers, the friend system, the API, as well as actual gameplay things, art, sound effects, tutorials, all of that stuff. All of your feedback is super valuable to us. Keep it coming in our Discord server. We're going to be hosting community playtests every evening around 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the next few days. So keep signing up for those. There will be a handful of developers or moderators at all of those to try and keep them organized. If you're looking to play outside of those time slots, you can use our Looking for Group channel, but with the small number of players who currently have access to the game, the best time to play will always be during those community play tests. Alistair, anything else you'd like to say to wrap up today?
Just a big thanks to any of the playable VI3s who have come through, or anyone from the NTM community who's come through and been a part of any of our playtests thus far. They've been really enjoyable. We've loved hearing you guys' feedback. It's been really helpful to the balance team. We it's always better when we have feedback to know where to balance minions. I think we're a really good example of something that we were able to tackle really quickly. Because a lot of players addressed that they felt like they were having trouble with that. Um, so yeah, thank you guys so much, and look forward to more playtests this week.
Yeah, all right. We'll see you guys around.